So disco dancing with double checks. Basically, this is going to be a discovered attack on the king. So it's a discovered check. And this is the only time in chess you can actually make two checks at the same time. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. We can see that the rook, the white rook here is lined up with the bishop and the black king. So you have three pieces in the same straight line, similar to a pin and a skewer, but here we have two pieces on the attacking team, on the white team in this case. The piece in the middle moves, and the piece behind it gives the attack. So this rook can be like a little bit lazy, doesn't have to make a move at all, and the piece in the middle, it can go anywhere it wants because the rook is the one giving the attack. Like in the copycat trick we just did, where the queen was the one giving the check, the knight could go anywhere it wanted to, right? So we're going to move the bishop to b4, one place it can go, because it's attacking the black queen here on e1. And it seems like maybe the queen can just capture the bishop because it's hanging. But why can't it?
Because the king has to move.
Exactly. You have to get the king out of check first before you can deal with any other attacks. So the king moves out of check, and now the bishop just takes the queen.
Yeah, that's nice when that happens.
Right, that's nice. Yeah, and oh my gosh, it actually happened to Magnus Carlsen the other day. He fell for a simple discovered attack. He blundered in his game. It's really amazing. Where else can the bishop go besides b4 to attack the black queen? There's one other square it could land on.
G3.
Excellent. Bishop g3, right. Same idea. You're just aiming at the queen. She doesn't have time to capture you because the rook gives check. So the king once again gets out of check, and now we captured the queen. Awesome. Okay, we're going to skip that. All right, here's another example. This one's a puzzle for you, actually.
Okay.
All right, so we have the white queen and the rook lined up with the black king. But you should notice also that this queen and the white queen are facing each other. So if you were to make a sort of random move, say, with your rook, like just move the rook here randomly, what will black do?
Capture my queen.
Exactly. So it's check, but it's not going to last very long. You're not going to win any material. So you have to make a very specific move with this rook in order to prevent that from happening, but it still will be a discovered check.
I'd probably just move the knight right under the queen, right?
Yeah, move the rook underneath the queen to b5, exactly. And here now, of course, the black queen can't jump over the rook to get to your queen. The white queen gives check along the diagonal, and black gets out of check using the queen, blocking the check. Is this queen hanging or protected?
Hanging.
Good. How would you capture it?
I would use this rook right here on g1. Or sorry.
You could use your rook on e1, or perhaps a more forcing move would be to capture with the queen because it's check.
Okay, all right.
And now the king moves. And one final move in this puzzle, you're now ahead in material. When you're ahead in material, you want to trade pieces. What should white play?
I would take the rook. Would I capture the rook?
Yes, capture the rook. Very good. Yeah. Excellent. Yes. And so white will definitely win this game. The only thing you have to worry about is if you move this rook, one of the reasons why we didn't want to take with the rook earlier is because look at the white king sort of trapped on the back rank.
Oh, yeah.
So you do have to be like a little bit aware, of that. You don't want to get yourself back rank checkmated, but that won't happen if you put your opponent into check because they have to get out of check. The most powerful kind of check is the discovered double check, right? Usually you can move, block, or capture to escape from danger, but in double check, you can only move your king. This is very often an unpleasant surprise for your opponent. So we have white in this position. It looks like black is winning because black is ahead in material. The bishop is aiming at the queen, but it's white's turn. And what do you notice about this white queen?
She's in, if the pawn moves, it'll be a discovered check.
Excellent. If the pawn were to capture one of these pieces, it's not only discovered check, but it would be double check, because when the pawn lands on one of these squares, it also aims at the king.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, super powerful, right? So the question for you is, which way should the pawn capture?
Probably to the right.
Yeah, good. Pawn captures on e7 is going to be checkmate. The king is in check two ways. And the great thing about that is you can't use the bishop to capture the queen because the pawn would still be giving check, right?
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
can't use the rook to capture the pawn because the queen still gives check. You can't block the queen's check because the pawn still gives check. So you can't move, I'm sorry, you can't block or capture. The only thing you can try to do is move the king somewhere, but he can't move straight forward because the queen still attacks that d7 square, and the king can't capture the pawn because it's guarded by the rook on e1. So if you were to capture on c7, then the king could capture the pawn and get out of both checks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
awesome job.
complex.
What's that?
That's complex, but it's really cool all the
It
way.
is. Yeah, yeah. You'd be surprised how often these things occur. You know, the more you practice your patterns, the more you're going to recognize them in your own games. Okay, we have black this time. And you can see black has only a few pieces on the board. The bishop, the rook, and the king are lined up. So wherever the rook moves, you have a discovered check. And this time we're going to go for mate. It's actually checkmate in one move.
Okay, so yeah, that will be just dropping the rook all the way down, right?
Excellent. Yeah, you drop the rook all the way down to e1. And explain why this is checkmate.
Because he really can't go anywhere. If he goes up, he's in check, and he's already in check on the bottom rank.
Right. Good. He can't move to any safe square. The queen cannot come back and block the rook's check because it's still checked by the bishop. Even if, you know, the queen were here, we're like somewhere here, could capture the rook. She actually can't capture the rook because, again, the bishop gives check. Can't capture the bishop because the rook gives check. It's just the most forcing type of move that there is, a discovered double check. And in this case, it's also checkmate. So super fun. Next time we're gonna look at the Venus flytrap, which is also known as smothered mate. So
Okay.
here's a preview of that. Tell me what you notice in this position for white.
You have the discovered check once you move the knight.
Excellent. Very good. Yeah, you're lined up. Wherever the knight goes, discovered check. Can you find a discovered double check? The most powerful kind of check.
Yeah, if
Okay.
I think I'm not sure if this is right, but if the knight moves to H, if it moves to H6, would that be?
Yeah, knight H6. Let's see if I can. I won't. It's not linked up there. Does this take me to it? No. Okay. Yeah, it's knight H6. We have to do it in our heads because it's not letting me make a move. So knight H6 discovered double check. And the pawn can't capture the knight because it's still checked by the queen, right? Can't block the check with the rook because it's still checked by the knight. So the king has to go into the corner. And actually, I think I'm just going to find this, the Venus flytrap mate for you, because we need to see what happens next. It's a little tricky to do the whole thing entirely in your head, although it's not impossible. So here's this article. There's the discovered check again. Okay. So this is kind of a reversed position from the other one, but you can imagine the knight has just gone to the edge of the board, said check, and the king had to go into the corner.
Okay.
Right, so it's like this one, except I switched the colors. So the knight moves to the side, the king goes to the corner, right? So now it's checkmate in 2. And the first move is an enormous sacrifice in order to get the king to be trapped by his own pieces. So we're going to use a smothered checkmate here.
Okay.
Mate in 2.
Oh, so would I just take the queen all the way up into the corner?
Yeah, very good. Queen diagonally to G1. The king can't capture the queen because it's guarded by the knight. So the rook must capture. And now we've trapped the king by his own pieces. So you can make checkmate in 1 move.
Okay.
You only have 1 piece left.
So yeah, just take the knight up there.
Up where?
To G1.
Now, do you want to capture this material? Is that checkmate?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
We just gave up a queen. We don't want a rook. We want checkmate.
So F2.
Excellent. Yeah, knight F2 is the smothered checkmate. That's all you need to make checkmate once the king is trapped by his own pieces, just a knight. So that's the Venus flytrap. I'll send this article to you so you can look at the rest of it. But that's how you can use the discovered double check to create a smothered mate. Some people call it Venus flytrap. So
it'd be not. Yeah, I still need to learn to use the knight to do checkmate. I'm not proficient at that yet.
Well, I'll send this article to you. I'm going to stop our recording.